Thank you, Janine. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of Eversheds. As some of you may be aware, we have a highly respected and internationally recognized clean energy practice. We're active in all the renewable technologies, both at home and abroad, and throughout Europe, the Middle East, and South Africa in particular. As Janine has mentioned, what I would like to do this morning is touch upon the bigger picture from the point of view of the institutional investor. My theme is simple. At present, marine energy projects are not project financeable and will only be financed on balance sheet via R&D budgets, individual equity investments, or by supplier finance, in addition to the grants and other support that we made available, which we'll discuss later. There is currently very limited active institutional interest, which makes the support that others, such as Crown Estate, ETI, Carbon Trust, is absolutely vital. But let me start with an interesting quote from the Ernst & Young RECAI magazine, which recently said, "It has taken the wind sector 40 years to get its LCOE onto a basis where it can compete with fossil fuels. The solar PV sector did this in a quarter of the time. For marine energy, the resource is there, but we need commercialization, and it is still an immature sector." And again, that is the nub. As I shall say again at the end, that is the key to the next stage of the evolution of this sector. The sooner, the earlier arrays which need to be built are in the water, the better. However, in broad terms, what is it that the investment community requires, and how does the marine sector stack up? The investment community wants a project with managed and identifiable risks within acceptable parameters so that they can have confidence that the project and the anticipated returns are deliverable. In other words, reliable technology on which reliable assumptions can be based. In the case of private equity, a return in line with the investment time horizon of the funds concerned. Counterparties with a strong covenant. A sound regulatory framework with long-term visibility and stability. And clearly secure access to market. So what do we have? Technology that is untried on a commercial basis in an array structure. In the wave sector, as John mentioned, there's still no real convergence of technology, which makes the market and the related supply chains too disparate. So there are numerous unknowns key to any assessment by financiers, such as what is the realistic estimate for O&M costs for the life of the project? What will the installation costs really be? Will availability and output be as we expect? We also have an investment cycle that rarely converges with those of most private equity houses. The exception is, of course, those which are linked to the major OEMs themselves, such as Alstom Ventures or ABB Technology Fund, for example. We've got a number of relatively modest OEMs, and with a very few honourable exceptions, such as Scottish Power, very little utility participation. While a few of these companies have been acquired by conglomerates, they will be equally reluctant to underwrite their supply chain for the benefit of an investing institution. We have an underdeveloped insurance market, since there really is a very limited track record on which to make a realistic assessment of the risks and little standardization across the industry, which makes claims very costly. While we do have a contract for difference mechanism enshrined into law last December, some progress has been made on the administrative issues, we don't have long-term visibility on strike prices beyond 2018. And in the marine sector in particular, the enhanced strike price of £305 per megawatt hour is only available for the first 30 megawatts. And in relation to access to market, it seems that the story is that where the available resource is greatest, the access to grid is the most constrained. This is a fundamental issue to the industry that needs to be addressed and which actually is a risk to the UK retaining its preeminence in the market, where we are under threat, for example, by France and further afield. Finally, there's the challenge of securing competitive PPAs in what's been quite a challenging market. While the CFD regime tops up the difference between the reference price and the strike price, developers are, of course, at risk if their PPAs secure yields that are significantly less than the reference price. So, unfortunately, at present, project finance and indeed institutional investment for all but the most adventurous of funds, and there are some, is really not a realistic prospect. Dan may well challenge me. He's got a seat. Dan may well challenge me later on that. As regards project finance funding, we're a long way from having a bankable proposition. So what's the key to changing all of this? It is, of course, the need for the first commercial arrays to be built out as soon as possible, to generate the data, experience, and valuable learning that will, in time, overcome the issues I've raised. Then, perhaps, the marine sector can experience the exponential growth that other sectors have seen and that this sector most definitely deserves. Thank you.